6:30. I'd like to open up the Administrative Services Committee meeting for Monday, May 21st, 2018. Please call the roll.
Councilor Corradino.
Here.
Councilor DeMasi.
Here.
Councilor Hill.
Here.
Councilor Tesserero.
Here.
Councilor Wilmot.
Here. Could I have a motion to approve the minutes of the May 7th, 2018 committee meeting? Councilor Tesserero, Councilor Hill.
Councilor Corradino.
Yes.
Councilor DeMasi.
Yes.
Councilor Hill.
Yes.
Councilor Tesserero.
Yes.
Councilor Wilmot.
Yes. Any old business to discuss tonight? Seeing none, moving right along to new business. Item number 1, Nancy Stereo, Personnel Director, as the chairperson of the Deferred Compensation Committee, requests authorization to seek proposals for investment advisory services for the City of Oswego Deferred Compensation Plan. Nancy?
Thank you, Councilor. I think everybody knows what our deferred compensation plan is. We are under a 457B, where I shouldn't say normal. All governments are 457B. Private sector are usually 401Ks, so that's what I'm kind of talking about, so that people kind of understand what I'm talking about. We recently received some information, and we've had some requests from some of our employees even about the lineup of our investments. Mass Mutual is our carrier, our administrator, our program, and they do a good job lining up our investments. However, we've had employees ask, can we change something or whatever, and we've never had that opportunity. We recently met with some people that do what they call investment advisory, counseling, guidance, and based on the conversations, we decided to try and put out a request for proposal for someone to take a look at our investment lineup, and then they would take the responsibility to look at and say, well, if you move these here, you're going to get a better return. They look at the investments they have. That's what they do, which saves us from having to take the time to think about, because I'm, as the chairperson, I'm the one that they ask those questions to, and I'm like, it sounds good to me, you know, so I'm going to be honest. So having a consultant do this for us, I think, is going to be beneficial to our employees and to the plan in the long run to do this. Now, it does go through the state process, and it has to be posted on their website for 30 days, and then we can award for 90 days. So it's a long process. It'll be a while before I bring back anything for the council to approve, but in the meantime, we are working on it.
Okay. Any questions, Nancy? And based on what you just said, you're basically recommending that we go to this next step in this process.
I am, and the other part that I guess that I did not say is their services are paid for through the investments. There's no charge to the city. There's a charge to the participant that is minor, like 0.02% or something like that they don't even see, because it's part of the investment in their annual cost anyways.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody else? Seeing none, can I have a motion to move this? Councilor Hill, Councilor Wilmot.
Councilor Corradino.
Yes.
Councilor DeMasi.
Yes.
Councilor Hill.
Yes.
Councilor Tesserero.
Yes.
Councilor Wilmot.
Yes. Item number 2, Thomas Reynolds, Assistant City Attorney, received a request from the Broadwell Hospitality Group for an extension of the East Linear Park Transient Dockage Agreement for an additional 4 years. Councilor Reynolds?
Sir, we entered into a contract last year with the Broadwell Group to maintain the East Side linear dockage. They maintain the property, they have tourist information, and they have the unique ability, they're there 24 hours a day because of the hotel, and there are signs that direct people up to the hotel if they want to dock there. They did a good job last year. They have the right to extend the contract for 4 years. I finally heard back from them, and they do want to extend it. There's a 3% increase over last year's contract, and I presume they'd be generally looking for a 3% every year, but in any event, it's gone up a bit, so the city will get a little bit more than they did last year.
Very good. Any comments or questions? I know you're in the legal department, but were there any issues or complaints that you know of?
None that I know
during
of.
the term of this contract?
No, Counselor, none that I know of. It seemed to be neat and clean, and no complaints came to my office.
I know as Councilor Gozick and I were on the council last year, I know that when we passed this, the intent was to provide a little more services to voters coming in and be a little more customer service friendly. So in the city was a little lax. We didn't want to pay a person to be down there. So it was a mutual agreement or deal. It was beneficial both for the city and for the hotel down there. Yes, Councilor.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I can attest to it because I belong to the fitness club there, and they're 5 or 7 days a week, and it's always neat, always clean. They've actually done some improvements. We haven't seen them like boxes around the garbage cans. It's all on site. We have the LED lighting, including brought the waterfront lights down there. I literally every day I'm there. It's always clean, and that's a high traffic area with a lot of people coming to the terminus and in the park, the river walk, and also have like abundant amount of fishermen coming there on a regular basis.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments, concerns? Seeing none, can I have a motion? Councilor Hill, Councilor DeMasi.
Councilor Corradino.
Yes.
Councilor DeMasi.
Yes.
Councilor Hill.
Yes.
Councilor Tesserero.
Yes.
Councilor Wilmot.
Yes. Item number 3, Nate Emmons, Director of the Rental Assistance Program, requests authorization for the City Chamberlain to transfer funds from General Fund contingent to the CHADA admin not to exceed $6,100 for the installation of an ADA accessible entry door for the office. Mr. Emmons.
Thank you, Councilor. Really here tonight to ask more for guidance than, and this is kind of part of the guidance, if you will, in terms of this request that you have before you. Currently, we reside at 159 Liberty Street. Some of you have been over to see our space. Per HUD regulations, as a part of our federal funds that we receive, we're required to be ADA accessible in terms of our space, and currently we are not. The front entry doors is not accessible for folks in wheelchairs, those sorts of accessibility issues. We have a lease, obviously, with our current landlord. We've made requests for him to replace the door itself to become more ADA compliant or to come into compliance. We're kind of in a back and forth stage right now with that. There's nothing in the lease that kind of forces him to do so, if you will, because the door is functional that we have. It's just not compliant to the standards that we need to kind of work through and work within. So I'm kind of between a rock and a hard place. I have to be compliant as a result of our federal funds. In terms of our entry door, we're just currently not. So in order to replace the door, it would cost roughly $6,100. That's the request before you. I'm just looking for some guidance, either to approve the funding moving forward so we can replace the door, to make a statement, a formal statement from the council stating that you're requesting that the landlord replace the door with an ADA compliant door. I'm just trying to do my job.
I have been down there to visit, and it's a great office, but it is a necessity, and I don't see where the attorneys can find it is where we can get the actual landlord to have to do it. But being what they do and what the service they provide, I don't know how we can go without a handicap access.
I mean, there's not a button, there's not anything like that. It's a big, heavy steel door. And if, for example, if you're in a wheelchair, you cannot get into our space without considerable effort and, quite honestly, assistance from the staff. And unfortunately, we can't operate under such a condition, if you will, given our source of funding.
Anybody else? Tesserero?
When we entered this agreement, I mean, we had to know that we had to be ADA compliant, correct?
Yes, I would assume so. It wasn't part of the negotiations or that part of the contract. I've looked through the lease, Again, the door is in good repair. It doesn't necessarily specify within the lease document, though, in terms of compliance in that sort of way. One would hope that that would have either been A, part of the conversation, or B, it would have been known by the landlord that that would have been a necessity for us to be able to operate as an office. But having not been there as a part of that actual part of the process, I can't say for sure.
Also, what is the term of the lease? How many years?
We're under a 5-year lease.
5-year lease?
Yes. Yeah. So we're there for a while. I would assume that if we ever got up and left, we probably could take the door off the hinges and take it with us. Keep the steel door that's there, I'm not sure. But again, I'm just looking for guidance. One of your duties is not only as a city council, but you actually serve as our board of commissioners for the office itself. And so these are the type of things that I would bring for you in terms of guidance as well.
I suggest that the city attorney jump in here for a second, if you don't mind. I know you've had a chance to review the lease.
I have.
You originally worked on it a year ago when we signed it. Is there any language in the lease that would support our side that the landlord should pay for it? Or is it pretty ironclad?
It's no. I think it does leave some interpretation and room for negotiation. And there's always, the prospect of litigation. But again, I'd certainly prefer to negotiate a resolution than litigate, particularly over a matter of this nature. I would say in the first instance, as Mr. Emmons said, this is an ADA compliant issue. There is a requirement that this space be ADA compliant to service our customers. And so one way or the other, I guess I would suggest that this board consider authorizing the work to be done. The question is going to be who pays for it, right? And so as not to upset the federal requirements for compliance, that should be taken into consideration. But the lease does say the use, it says the premises shall be used and occupied for community development services and for no other purposes. It was entered into with a term beginning August 1st of last year, and it runs for 5 years. It was actually executed around the end of July, and the proposal that you have in your packet is dated September 14th of 2017 and is actually addressed to the landlord for the roughly $6,000 investment. The only other area of the, well, there's two based on Mr. Emmons' comment that I'll share in a minute, but the only two areas that are, I think, of relevance, the provision for repairs and maintenance. It says that the landlord will make necessary repairs to the existing structure, comma, roof, comma, heating, comma, electric and plumbing systems. Okay, so, and then the tenant must, at tenant's sole cost and expense, make all repairs and replacements to the interior of the tenant's premises. So that's what the language states about repairs or maintenance. So is the door part of the structure, or is it part of the tenant's premises? That's suppose an issue to be resolved. And as far as Nate's comment about taking the door, with all seriousness, there is language that would suggest that we could do that. Not that I'm saying we would, but it's a, it's a 5-year, and it is a 5-year lease. The landlord is receiving monthly payments of, at least in the first year, of $1,700. Then it increases from there. So I don't know if there's room to negotiate with the landlord. I'd certainly be willing to suggest that and do what I can or our office could do to affect that negotiation. But at the end of the day, you know, the building has to be ADA compliant for us to continue servicing the population that needs that service.
If we were to vacate the lease, find an ADA compliant office, do we have the ability to do that?
Well, then, I mean, I think that raises the stakes a little bit more, you know, putting on the landlord's hat for a second. There's nothing in the agreement that says that the building must be ADA compliant. This seems, and you know, I've talked to various parties involved in this, and there's maybe interpretations of what was discussed and what was proposed and what was promised, but nothing is in writing that specifically I can hang my hat on and say, hey, landlord, you've agreed that this has to be an ADA compliant building. It's not, but for this door, that's your responsibility. There's nothing in the language that's that clear. Alternatively, you know, if we took that route, I'm sure you're going to have a landlord that says, well, wait a minute, I did a build out specifically for you at your request, and now I'm being left with a building that, you know, I may not be able to rent for the same amount of money that I'm renting to you. So.
I've got,
Go ahead. Oh, that's okay. No, so could we actually go ahead and approve for the work? We don't want to let this sit for 2-3 months with people needing to go there. Is there a way, I mean, either way you can work this out with the landlord after, whether it's a 50-50 split. I mean, there's many ways you can come to an agreement with him, but we just really need a time frame to get it taken care of.
Yeah, and I guess that was my point, Counselor, that, you know, regardless of how it ultimately gets resolved in terms of payment, the fact remains that the premises must be ADA compliant to serve the customers that the city entertains there.
And it's probably not feasible, I don't know how much, but we did put work into that building, so I don't think it would be feasible to go looking somewhere else and putting that cost back on us either by doing something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I would think not, but I can't say for certain.
thank you. So there's a question or a hand here in the audience?
My question is, you said the landlord did a build out for them to occupy that building.
That's my understanding.
Yes,
If
that's
you
correct.
did that, doesn't our code requirement require any kind of major renovation or anything that takes place? It has to be compliant with the code, which is assumed this is the ADA compliant when they do the building out?
It's my understanding in talking with the city's permit administrator that that the build out at that time did comply with code. Not necessarily an ADA compliant, but I'm not sure that it had to necessarily be ADA compliant to meet the code requirements. I think to utilize it ultimately for the population that it's serving, that ruling came, and there was a realization that it had to comply with the ADA, but it did comply with the New York State Building Code, according to Mr. Bell. And you know, the property was issued a certificate of compliance.
I did want to ask Mr. Emmons, is there any kind of penalty that we're being assessed for not having this special door?
No. HUD doesn't apply a penalty until somebody knocks on their door and says, I have a complaint. And then once that complaint is filed, then it's not a very nice day for any of us, because HUD will launch an investigation. So the federal government tends to be more reactive than proactive in those particular cases, but it only takes one person to say, I had difficulty at the particular office for there to be a complaint filed. So.
And Counselor, generally from my experience at least, the penalty, if one were to be applied, could be a decertification of the city to administer this program, or some other monetary fine, or more likely a directive to comply within a certain date, and then there's a larger penalty if you miss that time frame.
See, there's a hand up here in the audience.
Well, I think a 5-year lease is fairly generous, so why don't we go ahead, post a 50-50 split, and over a 5-year period, that's not a really big hit to the party, and then it's done.
That's a good suggestion. I mean, as a businessman myself, I look at this and I say this is a very good deal for the landlord. Over $20,000 a year, over a 5-year period, that's over $100,000. I think there's room to negotiate, to be honest with you. I don't mean to be petty about this, but it's a $6,000 door, and from what I hear from everybody, there's probably blame on both sides, it seems. I mean, the builder did what he had to do to remodel and get the place in shape. Somewhere along the line, the requirement for this ADA door was not translated to the landlord, or, I mean, it was dated September, this proposal, and we moved in August. So I think there is room for negotiation, in good faith negotiations. We're the city of Oswego. He's a landlord that's in good standing in the city of Oswego, and I think it's not going to hurt to wait until the next cycle. And during that time, have the city attorney send a letter and say that we don't feel that we should pay the full $6,000 plus, and negotiate a different number.
I agree, but why can't we move forward with this and still have it put in there that there will be negotiations going on, whatever they come up with? I mean, they would have to let us know what they are.
In my experience, if you're going to negotiate, you need some leverage. Right now, we have leverage. Leverage would be, and I don't mean to go that far, but it could be basically vacating the lease. That's our leverage now. I mean, if we pay for it, he has no reason to pay for it. We'll come to the table and negotiate.
Well, the biggest concern is how long we'll delay for people that really need that to be able to actually go and do business, because for a community service we're really trying to, that's my biggest.
If I could suggest, we'll make this a priority, and if we do negotiate a resolution in time for the full council meeting next week, we could always bring this, off the floor, so to speak, to consider. And that way, because without negotiating it, we're not exactly sure, what the end result's going to be. I understand your concern, and I share it. At the end of the day, the door has to be installed. It's a question of who's going to pay for it. And until there's, if there can be a resolution, that great, and I'm hopeful that there will be. But if it's authorized tonight, you do somewhat undercut your ability to negotiate a deal.
So the bottom line is we could do what we talked about and come back next week to Common Council after you have a chance to negotiate and talk to the landlord. And if that fails, then in 2 weeks we can bring it back to committee. Perfect. And get it done in an expeditious manner. Anybody have any concerns with that plan?
I like that.
All right, then we're going to just have no decision and just move on to the next and request that the council negotiate with the landlord.
Yeah, I would suggest that maybe, and just procedurally, if there a motion to table, and again, if we can end up resolving this matter in time for the next council meeting, can be brought off the table and voted on at the full council meeting. I think procedurally, and that may, I'll check with the clerks because I don't want to mess them up, but that may even alleviate the need for waiving the rules to bring a matter off the agenda. If it's on the table now, it can be taken off by a vote and considered. I think you know where I'm going there.
Based on the city attorney's suggestion, I can have a motion to table this. Councilor Hill, Councilor Tesorerio.
Councilor Corradino.
Yes to table.
Councilor DeMassey.
Yes to table.
Councilor Hill.
Yes to table.
Councilor Tesorero.
Yes to table.
Councilor Wilmot.
Yes to table. Thank you, Mr. Emmons, for coming. Item number 4, Randall Griffin, Fire Chief, requests permission to send 2 members of the Oswego Fire Department to the NYSAFC 112th Annual Conference Multifaceted Elevator Rescue Training, June 14, 2018, in Verona, New York. Is there anybody here to speak?
Thank you, Counselor. Chief Griffin and Assistant Chief Chago were unable to make it tonight due to some issues that took them out of town. So, in representing the fire department, the elevator industry has changed in technology, and we think it's important that we stay current with that change. Also, there are also things that we can use that are changing, the tools that we can use. Technology has changed. So in order to stay current with that, we think it's important to send a couple people to this class, and usually what happens is they will bring the information that they get and train the rest of the department.
Okay, very good. Comments or questions on this? And I see it is, you do have money in your budget for it.
Yes.
Okay. Anybody else? Seeing none, can I have a motion? Councilor DeMassey, Councilor Wilmot.
Councilor Corradino.
Yes.
Councilor DeMassey.
Yes.
Councilor Hill.
Yes.
Councilor Tesorero.
Yes.
Councilor Wilmot.
Yes.
Item number 5. Mayor William J. Barlow Jr. requests authorization to enter into a grant agreement with the state for the downtown fund. Mr. Mayor?
Thank you. This is one of the 12 projects that we have through the $10 million Downtown Revitalization Initiative. This is $600,000 we set aside to help small existing businesses downtown. Obviously, when I was running for mayor and since I've become mayor, I hear a lot of questions and get quite a few inquiries from downtown property owners and business owners who, you know, there's a idea out there that the city has grant money. That's not true. At least during my tenure as mayor so far, it's never been true. The city does not have grant money. What the city does have all the time, not related to the DRI, is the small business commercial loan program where you can get low interest financing for projects if you qualify. But the city does not ever have, you know, free grant money. So when we developed the Downtown Revitalization Initiative, we put in an allocation or asked for an allocation from the state for this program, which would allow the city to actually have some freestanding grant money to administer and give out through downtown Oswego. I'll explain more about this program tomorrow at a public information session. I'm having 2 sessions in the basement of Canal Commons from 5 to 6 and then 6:30 to 7:30, where I'll have a little PowerPoint talking about some more specifics. I'll post that PowerPoint on the website. There'll be hard copy handouts there. I have palm cards made up that are up here that we'll pass out that give some information. So if I don't get to all the details tonight, there is that session tomorrow, and it's open obviously to the public. You don't have to just own property downtown to go. So the way we set this up is we have 3 different types of projects that we are willing to consider to give out some grant money. You have to own property in the downtown boundary. The downtown boundary was set actually in our initial application when we submitted the DRI to the state of New York, and then it was actually expanded upon after we won the Downtown Revitalization Initiative in July of 2016. After the state assigned their own planning team and a private planning team to the city, they expanded the boundaries, and that's really what we're working with as we administer this program. The boundaries go from, this isn't exact, but off the top of my head, really from West 4th to East 4th, from Lake Street up to, I think it's Oneida Street on the west side, and then a similar width on the east side. And I'll have a big map and a printout map tomorrow at the work session with the boundary lines on it. We divided the types of projects into 3 different types. There's a facade improvement project, so this will be about a $25,000 to $35,000 grant. There'll be approximately 10 of these. There's not a specific number because every project's unique, so we didn't want to specifically say, you know, there are 10 $10,000 grants, because that would make it a little harder to select and put specific numbers to any project, so we wanted to leave that flexible. So there'd be about 10 of those facade improvement projects. This is where you can fix the look of your storefront, $25,000 to $35,000 grants. The grant for the facade project requires a 20% match. So the business owner or property owner will have to put in 20% of the project cost, and the grant will cover the rest of the project. Another type of grant is there'll be approximately 4 mixed-use building renovations for commercial or residential space. So these are really more full-blown renovation projects or expansion projects. We have $240,000 set aside for these projects. We envision these projects to be about $60,000 each, but again, that's not a specific number. The biggest grant that we will consider giving is $80,000, and that can be one $80,000 grant, or if you apply for 3 grants from 3 of the different types of projects, you can win more than one, but the most you can possibly receive is $80,000. This mixed-use building project again requires a 25% match, so you'll take the total project cost, the property owner is responsible for 25%, and we'll use some of the remaining grant money to close that gap up to $80,000. And then the last type of project are small grants, $2,000 to $5,000 grants. There'll be about 10 to 15 of these given out, and they are just new building sign projects. So if you're a small business and you want a new sign, you want to dress up the outside of your store, do some outdoor programming, this is what this grant's for, and this is a 100% grant. So the property owner doesn't need to put down any money. It's just a grant that you come up with, you know, the vision you have for the outside of your store, submit it, and if you're selected, then you'll receive the grant money up to about $2,000 to $5,000 for the project. There'll be an application process, a pre-application process, and then there'll be some deadlines that I'll talk about tomorrow, and they're on the back of that palm card as to when you can apply. All the information will run through the Economic Development Office. You'll see tomorrow outline some of the criteria and how these applications will be scored. And the way they are scored is there's a scoring committee. Justin Rudgick, Tim Stahl from the Economic Development offices are on that committee. Kevin Hill is the small business owner and common counselor on that committee. Bill Riley, owner of the Rivers End Bookstore, is on that scoring committee, and Katie Toomey from Center State CEO Chamber of Commerce is the scoring committee. So they will review all applications and submissions. They will use the criteria that'll be that's put out in this agreement to score, and we hope to all the allocations have to be reviewed and accepted by New York State, so they get the final say. They have to sign off on it before we can officially award, but we hope to turn around, review these applications, and make these awards sometime in late August or early September. Happy to go into more details if you want, but that's really the main points.
Thank you. Any questions for the mayor from the council or from the public? I see a question in the back corner.
Mayor, is there a deadline on this?
Deadline to apply?
Yeah.
Sure.
Has the state of New York set up something to hurry things along?
Well, so you're talking about a deadline to spend the money.
Yeah.
And the answer is no, not that I know.
Okay, no restrictions on that part. This is just, it's not a loan. I know what grants are, okay? I know the definition of grants, all right? But there's no hook here, is there? This is straight across matching funds, no loan, no low-interest type stuff. I'm just clarifying.
Well, the business owner is going to have to front the money. It's a
Okay.
reimbursed grant, just like every other grant that I've ever heard of is.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? from the
Just,
mayor?
I found on my own palm card, May 22nd, tomorrow's the information session. Pre-applications, which we will have available tomorrow, starting tomorrow, are due on June 1st. On June 1st, the general application, that's the one that counts, is made available, and they are due on July 18th to the Economic Development Office. And like I said, hope to get a sign-off from the state on selected projects in late August.
Anybody else? I know I think it'll be 2 years this July since we were awarded the money.
Yeah, we won the DRI in July of 2016.
So I know a lot of people are very anxious to see some of that money being put to good use. So thank you for the report. Any other comments? Seeing none, can I have a motion? Councilor Wilmot, Councilor Tesorario.
Councilor Corradino.
Yes.
Councilor DeMassey.
Yes.
Councilor Hill.
Yes.
Councilor Tesserero.
Yes.
Councilor Wilmot.
Yes.
And we need a resolution.
The mayor's office will create one, I'm sure. Item number 6, Kevin Caracoli, City Attorney, seeks the Common Council's consideration of a request presented by National Grid for the purchase of approximately .35 acres of the unused portion of Merkle Street that is adjacent to other property owned by the company that houses its gas regulation station. Councilor?
Mr. Chairman, I am going to defer to the requesters, National Grid. I know that, I don't know all the names, but I believe Matt McGraw, the project engineer, and some of his colleagues are here tonight, and I want to defer directly to them. I do have some, and would be happy to answer any questions regarding the legal process for doing this. I would note, though, for those of you who recall, this is very similar to the sale of abandoned or unused property that we did for the residential in your ward, Councilor, there was an encroachment issue on a garage. So it's the same process, a little different in terms of the request and the reason behind the request, probably a little more appropriate, shall I say, but I'm going to defer to National Grid for that.
Hi, I'm Matt McGraw. I am the engineer on the job. The backstory of this is we have 2 natural gas pipelines that originate at Kingdom Road and run north and terminate at our we call it Walnut and Merkle Street station. It's on 362 Walnut Street that is on the corner of what used to be Merkle Street. Now it's a dead-end road because of the Oswego County mental health facility complex that was built. We are required by the PSC to make our lines what we call piggable, internal inspection. To do that, we have to add equipment to the end of the pipelines, which will necessitate growing the fence footprint of our facility. Currently, both the pipelines actually reside in the road right-of-ways, and more or less, the dead-end road has become the driveway to our station. So when we enlarge the footprint, we will be more in the road right-of-way. So instead of asking for more easements on a dead-end road that appears nobody but us uses, we were looking to purchase the piece of property. I personally don't know the exact terms that our real estate department has been in, negotiations, or I guess early stage negotiations with Kevin on, but I guess I can only answer the technical sides of it. What I do know that I suppose will somewhat complicate things is there's a city water line that runs from the tower west to east right through the street, the dead-end street, and continues on east of our property.
Councilor, it's in your ward, right?
It's in my ward. There is residence on Walnut Street.
There's residents on both sides of our property, on the same side of the road and across the street from us as well.
How's that going to affect them?
How is
As far as what you plan on doing, as far as disruption?
During construction or afterwards?
Both.
During construction, there will be work running straight out of the right-of-way at the end of that road. We're looking to run up the roadway, so there will be disruption to the two houses that are south of our station. We would have to, obviously maintain ability for them to get to their house and for emergency vehicles. So anytime we were open cut, we'd have to have a steel plated, so they'd have access to it. We anticipate the construction on the whole project to be done in one construction season, so that portion of it would probably be 8 to 10 weeks, I'm estimating at this point. And then after the fact, after the construction is complete, the equipment that we're installing is only used once every 7 years, is our pigging schedule. So other than that, the station will operate as it has for the past, 60 years.
And as far as the timing of this project, when do you anticipate this being started and completed?
Oh, sorry. We are submitting our design to the Public Service Commission in either June or July. They typically take 6 months to do the review and comment, so we'd be looking at next spring construction season. And for the total of it, probably going very close to April 1st all the way through late September, October. And then there will be some, potentially the next spring, restoration depending on when we get seeding to grow back and stuff, but that'll all be governed by the New York State SWIP program.
Thank you very much.
Any other questions or comments? Concerns? Just for the public's knowledge, I don't think the counselor mentioned the selling price is $19,000.
Okay.
So that was determined by the professionals who do property.
So can I just add something to that? Our real estate personnel is on vacation, but she did say that because the water line is in the street, it will end up decreasing the price that we will be paying for that, because some portion of it will have to be either an easement back to the city or a licensing agreement for the city. So we're willing to pay for preparing the survey, the deed description, and the contract for the purchase, and then any sort of after the fact easement or licensing agreement, we would also prepare that as well.
But a selling price isn't known ahead of time, you're saying?
Correct, but the $19,000 was without the information that the water line was in there. So the price will decrease based on that as well, but it's to be determined when she's back from vacation.
That was fast. We started at 19 and now we're moving down. Okay. Any other comments? Councilor Tesorario.
I'd like to get some sort of an opinion from the engineering office, see how this is going to affect that type of easement, what we're going to be able to access and not access in case of emergency, and what that's going to affect.
Sure. Typically there's two ways.
We've had trouble down there before, is what I'm saying.
No, absolutely, and there's two ways to grant access, and it's the easement and then licensure, and those are obviously negotiated terms to maintain access, because it's your water line. So
I guess it'd be difficult to make a decision without any information back on that, how that's going to affect the selling price, and what we're going to have access to and how that's going to work.
Okay. I mean,
my sense on this.
Understand completely, but we are not under any desire to lock you guys out of your property. So, thank you.
Well, at this point, how do you want to proceed? It's your ward.
I'd like us to come back with some more information based on what we can get from Commissioner Tells, possibly through the Water Department and Engineering Department, and see where this lands as far as, granting access to what we need to be able to repair. We're giving away property, understanding that you need the property to do what you need to do, but we also have to have the access and see how that's going to work out.
Will a delay of 2 weeks be a problem
Right.
for this project?
No.
No.
Since you said it was 6 months down the road.
No,
anyway.
I mean, the intention here was to get it on your guys' radar and go through whatever we need
If
to
we
do.
cross the Ts and dot the Is on our end,
Precisely.
come back in 2 weeks?
Yep.
All right, so you want to make a motion to table it?
I'll make a motion to table.
Second?
Counselor Corradino.
Yes.
Counselor DeMassey.
Yes.
Counselor Hill.
Yes.
Counselor Tesarero.
Yes to table.
Counselor Wilmot.
Yes to table. Thank you. Item number 7, the Purchasing Department states bids were received for the 2018 street milling and paving project, and the low bid was submitted by Barrett Paving Materials in the amount of $776,867. And Mayor, would you like to discuss that?
Sure. We have 2 bids that came in. Barrett Paving at $776,867. Northern Labor, $777,777.77. So, Barrett got it by low bid by about $900. So that's the recommendation to the committee. And if you'll notice, the actual chip allotment for the city of Oswego was about $759,000. We have luckily $14,000 left over from last year that we can roll over to this year. That leaves us with just a couple $1,000 deficit, which we'll take from that the city will pay for to leave the plan as is.
Any questions? Yes.
And they are the parent contractor for the 104 project also?
Yep.
So they'll be mobilized in town?
We don't know
We don't know how that's
what
gonna
their
shake
schedule
out.
is. I mean, I hope that they don't wait until after 104, but
Just a consideration of their equipment and their ability to do
yeah,
the project.
I think that probably helped their bid price.
Go along with that, in the bid package that went out to the vendors who were quoting on this, there wasn't any timeline requirement that be stipulated that they had
No, and-
started before or ended by.
Yeah, in fact, I mean, that's something I learned that I'm surprised we don't do. I didn't realize we don't do it, but we do put a completion date of October 1st or October 10th was in there, but we do not use a schedule as part of the criteria, which we should. You know, I just didn't know we didn't, but we will from now on. I mean, here's a perfect example. If we knew, I would pay $900 more if Northern said they could be here in June or July rather than wait till whenever Barrett's available. And I'm using the 2 business references just as references, not saying that's the situation, but, you know, that is something we should put in our bids moving forward.
Thank you. Anybody else? Based on the calls and complaints that I'm getting, the sooner we can fix the streets, the better. Can I have a motion? Councilor DeMassey, Councilor Wilmot.
Counselor Corradino.
Yes.
Counselor DeMassey.
Yes.
Counselor Hill.
Yes.
Counselor Tesarero.
Yes.
Counselor Wilmot.
Yes. Item number 8, Mayor William J. Barlow, Jr. requests discussion for free use of the city pool and a reduced fee for the Learn to Swim program. Mayor?
Thank you, Counselor. Last year when we did the improvements to make the pool more handicap accessible, we went over to do the ribbon cutting, but I was also over there a few times when the pool was open to see how the improvements were coming, and you know, got a chance firsthand to see how the pool works and who uses the pool, how many kids are there on a regular basis, and you know, really get a true perspective of how the pool operates. So I looked at the numbers from the pool. Over the last 5 years, we average about $14,000 in collections, quote, revenue, if you want to call it that, from the pool. That, you know, to the city, that's really not a huge chunk of money. And I think if you look at who is using the pool, and a lot of the Oswego families use the pool, I think it's really the right thing to do to waive that fee for city residents. They already pay it and their taxes anyway. We discussed this last year when we made the boat launch free for city residents, and that seemed to win over quite well. So I recommend doing the same thing for city residents for the pool. And the current charge right now is $1 a day for children. It's $2 a day for an adult to go in the pool. And so we're going to waive that fee, and I also recommend dropping the per session cost for swim lessons, which is currently $20. Cut that in half for city residents only to $10.
Okay. Anybody have any comments on the council? Massey?
I fully support this. You know, I know everybody doesn't always look at it in a way of we raise taxes and time. Hopefully not moving forward too much, but you know, this is just another way of giving back. It's not a ton, but man, for the community, people can't afford to have their kids go into that pool every day. You add up, you get 90-degree weather and such. It's, we do pay our taxes. I think it's fantastic, and I'd love to see that place packed every day.
Okay. Anybody else? I see somebody in the audience, but let's hear from Councilor Gozick.
Yeah, well, my son and I use the pool. We've used it for years. And I think it's great. My only concern, I know there's a couple of lifeguards, either Joe and Katie on that cap over here. My only concern, and not that I think one of the great things about this is providing this service to people like that pay so much in taxes. Since Mayor Barlow's been in, you know, people have seen the DPW out there providing those services that were questionable before. You know, people, this is the sort of thing, again, shows us we're moving in the right direction. And I think that it's also going to help promote, you know, health and fitness among, you know, people that otherwise may not seem like a lot to a lot of us, but times are tight. And, you know, this little bit every day, if you're going to go to that pool and you can only afford to go once or twice. My concern was for the lifeguards that are here. I don't know if they want to speak to this. But one of the problems is a lot of parents kind of dump their kids off there. My only concern is that if there's a way to somewhat finesse this and try to, you know, make it so, I know the lifeguards, I've seen it, I'm there a lot, I don't even see half of it. You guys see way more than me. But, and I know Dominic Pike, the guy who's run it for years, and I don't think he's there anymore. But the bottom line is, that's my only concern is, there's a way maybe we can put in some sort of like measure to ensure that like children are going to be supervised, at least at younger ages, because I think right now it's 7, if I'm not mistaken. 8, okay. So kids over 8 years old, and it's the same thing. If you ever go to the skating rink, if you ever read the fine print, look, it actually says like, they accompany like up to 7 years old. So 8 years old, they can be there on their own. My concern was with lifeguards and the safety, you know, because they're taxed anyway when there's 100 kids there. So I don't know if there's anything that can be done. I think it's a great thing to make it free, open to the public, and reduce the fees for lessons. My only concern was for just management. Safety is an issue. A lot of kids running around, running crazy all over the place. It's very easy to fall and get hurt. And we're having lifeguards deal with a crisis to get in the pool when it's packed over there.
So is the question what?
Well, I was just going to say, I just didn't know with this if there was a way to look at ways of maybe.
Are you worried about it being too crowded?
Yes.
So the point is,
you
know, the point to waiving the fee is to try to encourage more people to use the pool. So the idea that the pool will be more crowded or more people will attend is precisely why we're doing it. The pool has a maximum capacity. That maximum capacity can be dictated by how many lifeguards we have on staff at any given day, or permanently we can switch that capacity based on how many lifeguards we hire. The pool has very few times reached max capacity in the last few years. So, you know, hopefully more people go to the pool. Hopefully it does reach max capacity. That's a good problem to have. And if it does happen, then we'll hire more lifeguards and we can have more lifeguards work at the pool. I know that by making the charge free, we're going to have one less person working the front door. So that in and of itself helps make one more person available.
I think that would help actually to hire a few more, because I know there's been a shortage in the last few years. It's been hard to get the lifeguards. I don't know if it's because you got to hire earlier because there's so many different public pools. But I think that actually would be the solution to make sure all the seats are filled and especially if it's people there. That's my only concern. Is just a lot for them. I applaud them. I think it's a great idea.
think Katie Metcalf, who was in charge of the pool last year, I think she wants to say a few words, and I'd be actually interested to hear her take on this, since she was on the front line.
Okay, so I'm the first one to say I have a bleeding heart for this pool. I bought at least 15 kids' school supplies last year. I'm all for it being free for them. My concern comes to how hard of a time we have getting lifeguards. I've spent myself all year with my old coworker at Mexico trying to send kids to her to get certified. The problem comes is that we wait a really long time to hire them, so then they take jobs at the captain's club or the captain's quarters or out at Mexico Point or out at New Haven or out at Fairhaven Beach, sorry. So they take all these jobs because they haven't heard back from the city, and then we get to the point where I don't have enough lifeguards, I'm working 7 days a week, it's a long time for me on my summer off, and I'm really concerned for the kids' safety if we don't have enough lifeguards. Because I've been at that pool where we have 200 unsupervised kids and 3 lifeguards and me in the office, and I feel like my whole body's shaking because I'm so worried. And I've been there when a little 2-year-old got pulled out of the pool and I thought I had to give him CPR, and so I want to avoid that. But I know that from waiving the fee, I will get more alcohol in the pool. I will get more parents dropping their kids off and not coming at 5 o'clock if we keep the same pool hours where open swim is from 12:30 to 5 and then family swim from 5 to 7, if we keep those same rules. My concern is that parents won't come. Well, it's free. They can stay till 7 now. And I know on personal occasion, I have brought kids home because it'll be 7 o'clock, I'm leaving, and they're sitting on a curb. And I know that might be frowned upon, but in my mind, it's better than them walking down to the lake at dark or getting hit on Bridge Street, crossing Bridge Street. So my concern is that we won't hire enough lifeguards, and I won't be able to take care of the kids that come to the pool. So I'm just wondering if we will hire more to start, and I don't have to make everyone full-time, like when I make the schedule, but to know that it's in my back pocket.
Well, I mean, I'm not sure I'm following you, because what I said is we can alter the max capacity of the pool based on how many lifeguards we hire on a permanent basis or how many lifeguards are at work on any particular shift. So the idea that we won't have enough lifeguards in any given day to handle the crowd can be adjusted by the max capacity that the city can set. So I just don't know that any situation will happen where on any day, it's overwhelming. If we need to hire more lifeguards, I'm fine to do that. This is the first time this sort of problem has made it to my desk. I didn't know I find it hard to believe we can't find enough lifeguards. Maybe we do have to start hiring more earlier in the year, but to use, some of these examples, which are speculation at this point, to say let's not, reduce the fee, as I think, let's reduce the fee. If we see problems popping up related to reducing the fee, we will handle those problems accordingly. But, I think you're painting more of a, chaotic, worst-case scenario picture rather than what will really happen regularly every day.
At this point, since you brought up the subject about hiring, I would like to get the take of our city personnel director and see what she has to say about this issue.
I know last year in particular, we did run into a problem having enough lifeguards. Our problem wasn't necessarily the numbers, it was the length of time they could work. And we ended up closing the pool like mid-August because we had so many of them that were going to school. So they weren't here to finish up towards the end of August. If the concern is making a commitment to them as far as being hired, I'll go through the applications tomorrow and get phone calls out and say, look, if I've got all your certs and you're good to go, you've got the job. But we typically don't open the pool until the elementary schools have closed. And, I mean, Katie, you can't work before school gets out. That's what I'm saying. So you're kind of in a catch-22. There are some college students that could start, but we don't have the rest of the staff up and running. But I can call and make commitments to anybody that I've got, that I've approved, that I've got certs on file for. If anybody knows somebody that's got their certs and wants to be a lifeguard, send them in to see me. We can get them through the process. But I know what you're talking about, because typically we've waited till like the week before the pool opens to make a commitment to some of the kids, and they've gone somewhere else because they didn't think they were going to. But if I can make commitments tomorrow, as long as they meet all the requirements. So
that sounds like a good direction to go. I know from my son's experience as a lifeguard.
I understand, yeah.
He didn't know until basically the week before.
Right.
And I think Katie's concern is a valid one. You have a couple of different job opportunities. You're going to take the first one you can get.
Correct.
And you're hired.
I will go through the applications tomorrow, I promise, and I'll see how many of them I don't know that we have a ton right now, but we have advertised. In the Pale Times, we put ads in the shopper, and we also have it on our website. But if you know someone personally that has a child that's at least 16 and is willing to do get the certifications that they need, send them in.
Well, it's just not a Oswego experience. And I saw in yesterday's Sunday paper that the Syracuse pools are like 40 lifeguards short.
Right.
So
right, you would mention that.
Must be a problem throughout.
It's very, very expensive to get certified. So unless the city ever wanted to think about having a person, maybe in our fire department, or eventually down the road, I'd be willing to do it, become certified to certify people, then we could only charge the fee that the Red Cross charges to actually give you the test. So regardless, it'll always cost money because the Red Cross is always going to charge you money. But if the city wanted to ever think about that, I think that we would have an easier time as a community rallying kids in high school to get certified to make it cheaper for them.
Good idea. Anybody else? Yes, Councilor?
I just want to clarify that we, would never leave that pool with one lifeguard and 200 kids, okay? We would stop that capacity. I need to make sure that people are aware of the way it came out, that is not the issue.
No, the health
we would
department
cut off.
doesn't allow it. There's specific guidelines that they have that we have to certify to them every year. Believe me, I get the file out every year. I have to show them how many lifeguards we have hired. I have to show their certs, the whole 9 yards. And there's certain, depending on the dimensions of the pool, you have to have so many lifeguards every so many feet. We never have one lifeguard with 200 kids.
That's what I'm saying. I
No.
wanted to clarify that it's not a safety issue. We would never do that. This is a win-win.
Councilor Hill?
Just a quick question. How often have we turned kids away because we've hit the max capacity? Has that ever happened under your...
In my 11 years, no, but I'm going to be brutally honest. I've never sat there and counted the values in the book and then gone out and counted on the deck, because even if I tried, like there's been times where I've counted like 230, but then a kid pops up or a kid walks in and you lose count. So no one's ever had a clicker to say, you come in, you come out. Oh, you come in, now you come out. We've never had that. Kids come and go as they please. And when you leave, there's no like, okay, I'm signing my name out like the rec does. The rec, you sign in and you sign out. At our pool, you give your dollar, we put a tally mark down.
But how close are we getting to that? So if we're not counting, does that mean we're far away from those limits?
Well, when we had our free day, instead of taking tallies, we had people write their names down. And I think probably only 2 people told me no and walked out. But everyone else was willing to write their name down, and I think that was nice because when they left, they actually said goodbye to you. So I knew that that person was leaving, and it was a mental note for myself. I mean, I guess instead of we took attendance in that sense, I could mark down when someone leaves and we have a better idea of how many people were in the pool at every given second.
Like think what I'm trying to establish is that we either are or aren't pushing that line with what the state limits are, so it sounds like we're not.
No, we always have 4 lifeguards in this area, and we try, when we have that like $300 person there, we try to have one on the pool deck because of one of the angles of the pool, you just couldn't get to it very quick, so it's easier to have a kid on the pool deck to kind of walk that side that doesn't have a lifeguard in the chair close to it.
Just making sure that we don't have an issue there that we're, you know, maybe getting close to.
No, the only time that becomes sort of an issue is when I have people already at 40 hours in their work week and I can't call anyone in, and that's when we run into that problem.
Councilor Gozick.
Yeah, just as a point of clarification, I think it's a great program. And I think, thinking of the far, the big thing is these guys do a great job over there. I can attest to them. I've been going there for 7 years, all the time in the summertime. They do a great job. It's not about reaching the maximum capacity so much as it's a handful, just making sure that they do fill all the positions. If we can do that and they get it worked out over there, wouldn't that cover it if you knew you had the lifeguards, if you had all the lifeguards? I mean, isn't that the real issue here is, I don't think it's with the new numbers, they can handle huge crowds, and some days the weather is crappy and you're not going to get a big crowd. When it's nice out, it's 85 or 90 in the summer, you get 1 million people, regardless, it probably won't be that much more. I mean, the reality is, that if they have all those positions filled, it just makes it safer, and for the students or the high school, college students working there, they always cover it, and they always do a great job, and they make sure they're following all the laws. It's just the issue of, I think the issue, and we didn't mean to blindside the mayor on this, the big thing I think is that if we can get them hired, who would be aware of such things? There's so many little details running the city, it's a minor detail. The last couple of years there has been, they haven't been able to fill positions. If we can get those positions filled, I think that would solve the whole problem, wouldn't it? I mean, is that correct? I mean, I'm just asking Katie.
I think that would relieve some of the daily stress we all feel when we're in the chair worry, if we had more on staff. And if you want to, I know that we always max out and even go over with our swim lessons. So if I could get more lifeguards to run that 2 hours a day with swim lessons, you could teach so many more kids.
All right.
So that could benefit us too.
All right, thank you. Councilor, do you have anything to add?
I just want, there's so many mixed. If we're getting close to numbers, it's going to take one kid. You are going to go over your maximum based on the number of lifeguards. So I'm not liking what I'm hearing with that. I would recommend, if we can't keep track of how many, we get some bands around the wrist that have numbers on them. And when you get to your max number of how many lifeguards you have, nobody else comes in. If they leave, they toss them in, something like that. We don't want, I just don't want to hear that, sometimes and we don't keep track, we don't know how many are in there. It's going to take one lost life that we need to come up with a better plan of what I'm hearing as far as that goes. This itself, getting on to other issues, which is great that we know it. This is a total benefit and we can manage this. So I'll be happy to help with Nancy or anybody that wants to help, but we have to manage it. Give somebody a
Thank you. I see a hand up in the back.
I like the wristband idea, and that wristband should have a number that corresponds along with his name. That kid gets hurt, you don't even know who it is. He can't tell you who he is. You have no idea, you know, you call,
Well, these are things that can be worked out.
Yeah,
the issue at hand here is
separate from this.
whether we're going to pass this or not. I see there's a comment way in the back.
I agree with the program. It sounds like a good program, Mayor. I think the issue was brought up about accountability. I think that is a sincere issue that needs to be addressed, and maybe a way to figure out accountability, because if you've got children, 8 years old, are allowed to be dropped off, it'd be a good thing for accountability to be able to know that my child is there or they've been checked out. So I think the accountability issue is something that needs to be looked into further. That's all.
All right, thank you. At this point, are we ready to vote on this? Any other comments? Oh, I'd like a motion. Councilor DeMasi, Councilor Tesorio?
Councilor Corradino?
Yes.
Councilor DeMasi?
Yes.
Councilor Hill?
Yes.
Councilor Tesorero?
Yes.
Councilor Wilmot?
Yes.
Item number 9, Councilor John Gozick requests discussion on behalf of the tree stewards from the Tree Advisory Board to propose funding to secure Tree City USA status for the city of Oswego. I see we have some members of the Tree Advisory Board here.
Yes. Do you want me to start?
Sure.
Would you like me to start and then?
Sure, you can go
Okay,
ahead.
just to give the background here, we have John Ashline, Valerie Dawnstar, from the Tree Advisory Board. I'm the counselor that I represent the Common Council on the board. And recently, they met with the mayor, and we met just a couple weeks ago, and they asked if I would put forth this resolution to discuss the possibility of Common Council of the city funding the tree stewards in order to help preserve our Tree City USA status. I know a lot of people probably aren't aware of this, and I'll let John and Valerie explain it a little more. But up here we have our flag on the wall. Most people overlook it. It's here. You come here day after day and not notice it. But it's important when we look at today, things that draw people to municipalities are various. And this is something I think we really need to get behind and promote. Now, in this day and age, in the 21st century, the situation we're in here, it can be cliche, it can be overblown, people talking about the environment. But the reality is it's also a source of pride. And in a waterfront community that values its natural resources just as much as our cultural and historical resources, I think this is a no-brainer, and it's really important to recognize people like the tree stewards that stand before you here, because they've done over 4,000 hours of volunteer work in our community in an effort to preserve our tree canopy, so we have fresh air, breathe, and just to have the beauty of these trees there. So I wanted to hand over to them, but they have their budget. Everybody has it here, and if you don't have it, they can explain it to you. But they're asking for basically tools and implements they need to do their job. They've had no budget in the past. So if you guys would like, you can explain the budget. And if you want to tell more about the Tree City USA status, that would be great.
The Tree City USA status makes us eligible for grants. Bottom line, we can get money because we are a Tree City USA, and there's a grant coming up. Our tools that we're using right now are like 5 years old. Our current tools were purchased by a civic society. It's terrible. I can't remember who it was. Other people know better than I bet. So they're in need of replacement. That line there, the wood burning, we wanted to make plaques for designated trees. So that's what that's
So
for.
it's for once a year?
Yeah, like for Arbor Day, if there's a memorial tree given and somebody wants a plaque, we can do that ourselves. It's not a real fancy thing.
Right, it's inexpensive.
Inexpensive wooden plaque. I think it says scholarships on your form. That's for our continuing education. We have workshops that come up. There's an annual seminar, different things like that we've been paying out of pocket for if we can. Otherwise, we don't go. So that increases our education on how to care for the trees. Bump caps are to protect our little beanies. There's a little cap, like a hard hat, only it goes under your baseball cap.
And that was recommended by Jim Maloney?
Right. Our last workshop we had on Arbor Day, he recommended that we have those since we are working above our head.
He's the,
He's the National Grid Forester. Yes, forester. And sidewalk signs so that people know who we are and what we're doing. Just those little A-frame signs that sit on the sidewalk. And
Portable.
Right, portable.
Portable, yep.
And all kinds of alerts them that there's something going on up ahead.
Great.
Any questions?
Any questions? Yes, Councilor Hill.
I think we're all fairly aware of the evidence that says that tree-lined streets, draw people to a community. They're better for aesthetics. And we've seen a lot of our trees cut down. And as a counselor, we have to balance the needs of the constituents with the needs of the aesthetics, the health, the beauty of the community. we get a lot of requests to cut trees down. I'm sure you've heard that. So I think what we've done, and you're aware of this, we've implemented a new process where when a tree gets requested to be cut down, that the councilor ultimately makes that final decision, where before the requests were just kind of getting pushed on to the DPW. So there's another level to that. So I just wanted to reinforce that so that people know that we are doing what we can to try to preserve and protect the trees that are there. I think this is a very small amount of money. I would say that we approve it. I mean, unless there's any dissent, this is negligible. And I think the work, one home sold on Bridge Street, if there's attractiveness based on the aesthetics of the community, is worth every penny. So I would just ask that we move this forward.
I don't know if you said the total. The total is $892.
Yeah, 892.
Right.
You're not asking for a lot here.
Right.
For all the work that you do.
A fairly small volunteer organization that, like Councilor Gozick said, has made 4,000 hours of volunteer. Yeah, it's every weekend.
Yeah, there's about 10 of us there every
yeah.
weekend.
So, yeah, we don't require a lot of funding, just something to make it a little easier on the members.
Well, on behalf of the Common Council, thank you for your service to the city as tree advisory people.
My pleasure.
There's no other comments. How about a motion? Councilor Wilmot, Councilor DeMassey.
Councilor Corradino.
Yes.
Councilor DeMassey.
Yes.
Councilor Hill.
Yes.
Councilor Tesserero.
Yes.
Councilor Wilmot.
Yes.
And we need a resolution.
Councilor Gozick will do it. Thank you very much. At this time, I believe that was the last item for the Administrative Services Committee. Is there any other items that we need to discuss? Seeing none, can I have a motion to adjourn? Councilor Tesoriero, Councilor Hill.
Councilor Corradino.
Yes.
Councilor DeMassey.
Yes.
Councilor Hill.
Yes.
Councilor Tesserero.
Yes.
Councilor Wilmot.
Yes.
At this time, I'd like to call the Physical Services Committee meeting for Monday, May 21st to order. Please call the roll.
Councilor Hill.
Here.
Councilor Wilmot.
Here.
Councilor DeMassey.
Here.
Councilor Gozick.
Here.
And could I get a motion to approve the minutes of our May 7th, 2018 committee meeting? Councilor Gozick. Councilor Wilmot.
Councilor Hill.
Yes.
Councilor Wilmot.
Yes.
Councilor DeMassey.
Yes.
Councilor Gozick.
Yes.
Is there any old business to come before this committee? Seeing none, we'll move on to new business under authorizations. Number 1, the Engineering Department received a request from William and Lori O'Brien, owners of the Red Sun Fire Roasting Company, located at 207 West First Street, and Port City Cafe and Bakery, located at 209 West First Street in the 3rd Ward, to request a change to a resolution number 253, dated June 28, 2010, from a temporary decorative fence to a semi-permanent fence, seasonal, from May through October. Is there anyone here to speak to this? Ms. O'Brien?
Basically, we're just looking to upgrade and do something a little bit nicer, but we've met with 2 different people about our plans to do nicer things, and on each occasion, it's been recommended that we zip some screws into the ground for stability for what we're trying to do. The major issue for us is that we only get 6 feet from the building, and in order to put like a 2-foot table, 24 by 24 inch table, we really need all that 6 feet for the chairs to move backward and forward, so the fence itself can really only be very thin. We can't get any sort of width out of it, so it's easy to topple over. And we do have something right now, but we are having issues with it. It gets caught in the wind and sometimes takes off and things like that. So we're just trying to put together something made out of a more sturdier material, a little heavier duty, and basically newer, nicer, qualitative situation.
Well, I was just going to say, I love seeing the downtown outside seating for the summertime. I think it adds a lot of character and ambiance to the downtown. Yeah, I was just going to say I'm 100% supportive of it. I think a lot of the improvements I would encourage others to be, because I think it adds like that offer.
Thank you.
Can I get a motion, please? Councilor DeMassey, Councilor Wilmot.
Councilor Hill.
Yes.
Councilor Wilmot.
Yes.
Councilor DeMassey.
Yes.
Councilor Gozick.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Item number 2, the engineering department received a request from Mr. and Mrs. Briglin, owners of a single-family dwelling at 43 East 8th Street, located in the 2nd Ward, for proposed use of public space to remove existing and replace with new 10-foot by 18-foot one-car parking area and new 10-foot by 12-foot apron between the curb and sidewalk fronting East 8th Street. And there is an intent. Is there anyone here to speak to this? Councilor DeMassey?
I'm sorry.
Councilor DeMassey, did you...
I fully support this. It's going to make a nice improvement. They aren't doing anything different than already taking something down and putting something up. I totally support
So
it.
they're just, for the public, they're just removing an existing, really an existing parking space and the apron and then replacing it with new.
Yes, nothing.
Are there any questions or concerns? Okay, could I get a motion? Councilor Gozick and Councilor DeMassey.
Counselor Hill.
Yes.
Counselor Wilmot.
Yes.
Counselor DeMassey.
Yes.
Counselor Gozick.
Yes.
Item number 3, the engineering department received a request from Anthony Pauldine, contract purchaser of a 2-family dwelling at 80 West Cuga Street, located in the 3rd Ward, for proposed use of public space 13 feet by 33 foot to install a new paved one-car parking area between the curb and sidewalk. And there's an attachment. Mr. Pauldine?
Thank you. We're the contract purchaser for the property. The property was built originally as a 2-family, split right down the middle, literally from attic all the way down to the basement. It was designed that way. The house is 30 feet wide and the lot is 33 feet wide. It has about 1.5 feet for a little tiny sidewalk that goes down each side of this house, to the back porches. It's a great house. There's only, I think, 2 houses that face the stone wall of St. Mary's. The other houses, I think, turn to the streets. I don't know if it's 5th and 6th Street. The house to the west is owned by John Luber, and for some reason that little house has a driveway on both sides of the house. When the person that had bought the house that I'm contracting to purchase about 30 years ago, they thought that the driveway went with it, and sadly found out later that it did not and has no driveway. And for 30 years, she and her tenants and the other half of the house have parked on the grass in the wintertime between the sidewalk and the curb, which is rather narrow. Because we're purchasing it, we're already painting the house. We haven't had the closing, but I wanted to do it the right way and get permission to have proper parking for each side of the house in the front. And this is the only reasonable way to do it without tearing off the beautiful front porch that goes with the house. It's rather stately and a great house, and we'd like to see it restored and kept in nice shape.
Are there any questions? I did have the chance to visit the property. I think that we're all aware of the work that Mr. Pauldine does, and if this will allow him to make the property more marketable to better tenants, improve the quality of the housing in the neighborhood, I would support it, and I would urge you to support it. I was also informed that this was a plan actually put together by the city engineer's office in a previous time, and it just never went forward. So this is something that was at one time, I don't want to say endorsed, but put together by the city to kind of address this issue. So I would request that you support it. Any questions?
Through the chair, I just wanted to point out something that I learned a couple of years ago on this council, that you have to factor in snow load here in the city of Oswego. And I remember a couple of years ago somebody came to the council and they were proposing about a 6.5 foot width, where you've got 13 feet. 6.5 feet is certainly not wide enough for a car, and also snow that's plowed by the city into that area. So it certainly conforms to what I think is an ideal spot. The space is big enough for the car and for the snowboard. So I just want to throw that out, that it passes the snow load test. Thank you.
Yep, thank you. And I appreciate Councilor Hill for bringing up that point. The engineer's office did quite some years ago propose this exact thing for the owner, and they had to look into it to see if it was ever approved, but it never made it this far to the council for some reason. It just died, but they had all the plans, and everything that you see drawn up was already done, some years ago.
Any other questions? Okay, can I get a motion, please? Councilor Gozick, Councilor DeMassey.
Councilor Hill.
Yes.
Councilor Wilmot.
Yes.
Councilor DeMassey.
Yes.
Councilor Gozick.
Yes.
Thank you.
Item number 4, the Special Events Committee received a request from Stephen Diffrin, Oswego High School band teacher, for use of Veteran Stage for a concert on June 13, 2018, from 6 p.m. until 8 p.m. Would anyone like to speak to this? I did have a chance to speak with representatives from the Economic Development Office, and I also spoke with Commissioner Kells, and neither expressed any concern. The date is free, and I think this would be a great asset to have during that time. Could I get a motion, please? Councilor DeMassey, Councilor Wilmot.
Councilor Hill.
Yes.
Councilor Wilmot.
Yes.
Councilor DeMassey.
Yes.
Councilor Gozick.
Yes.
Number 5, the Special Events Committee received a request from Victory Transformation regarding the Prayer for the Prodigals event to be held on Saturday, July 14, 2018, from 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. The event is requesting the use of public space at Riverwalk West, Veteran Stage, 14 picnic tables, and additional trash containers. This is a recurring event that's happened in the past. Very little concern was expressed, with the exception of, I understand Linda can confirm this, that there was some issue over some noise for weddings that were taking place across the river, but you've confirmed there is no wedding scheduled for that date. So we're
No, and
clear
I
on
have
that
it
front.
noted, so we know what's happening.
So
Not a
that there would
problem.
be- if there's any concern on that front. Are there any questions? Okay, can I take a motion, please? Councilor DeMassey, Councilor Gozick.
Councilor Hill.
Yes.
Councilor Wilmot.
Yes.
Councilor DeMassey.
Yes.
Councilor Gozick.
Yes.
Number 6, the Special Events Committee has received a request from Kelly Whites, representative of the Eclectic Arts and Sciences Homeschooling Association, for permission to host the Triathlon Just for Kids event to be held August 5th, 2018. Again, there's an attachment. This is another recurring event, something that I understand has never gone through the Special Events Committee, but they just wanted to make sure they did go through all the appropriate channels. Is there anyone here to speak to the event, or does anyone have any questions or concerns over the plans? Okay, seeing none, could I get a motion? Councilor DeMassey, and Councilor Gozick.
Councilor Hill.
Yes.
Councilor Wilmot.
Yes.
Councilor DeMassey.
Yes.
Councilor Gozick.
Yes.
And item number 7, he's received a request from the Oswego Pride Committee regarding the Oswego Pride Parade and Festival for September 15, 2018, requesting use of public space at Veteran Stage, Oswego Riverwalk West, road closures, and a waiver from the noise ordinance and vendor fees applicable. Again, a recurring event. Very little issue, if any, expressed over the event. Does anyone have any questions or concerns?
Maybe, do you have any information on that, Lisa? Just to know if there's any conflicts with another event?
There is another event going on that day that they work together on it.
Perfect.
And then I'm getting the application from them right now.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, there's a red, white, and blue event that's also on that day, but they collaborate and work together. So.
Okay, thank you.
Could I take a motion, please? Councilor DeMassey, Councilor Wilmot.
Councilor Hill.
Yes.
Councilor Wilmot.
Yes.
Councilor DeMassey.
Yes.
Councilor Gozick.
Yes.
Is there any other business to come before this committee? Seeing none, I'll take a motion to adjourn. Councilor Gozick and Councilor DeMassey.
Councilor Hill.
Yes.
Councilor Wilmot.
Yes.
Councilor DeMassey.
Yes.
Councilor Gozick.
Yes.
This time, I'd like to bring the Planning and Development Committee meeting Monday, May 21st, 2015. Call the roll, please.
Councilor Tesserero.
Here.
Councilor Corradino.
Here.
Councilor McBrady.
Can I get a motion to approve the minutes of the May 17, 2018 committee meeting? Councilor Cordino, Councilor McBrady.
Councilor Tesserero.
Yes.
Corradino. Yes. Councilor McBrady.
Is there any old business to come to this committee? I see none. We'll go right on to new business under authorization. City Clerk's Office received a request from David Thompson, owner of Gibby's Irish Pub located at 8 West 2nd Street for a waiver of the noise ordinance in order to have outdoor performances during the summer months of May through September 2018. And there is an attachment I would like to read. Dear Chairman, Tesorerio Committee meetings, I would like to request a special variance to the city's noise ordinance section 65-7 for Thursday, Friday, and Saturday nights during the summer months of May through September for outdoor musical performance at Gibby's Irish Pub, located at 8 West 2nd Street. Thursday night music will be played till 11 p.m. Friday and Saturday nights music will be played till 12 a.m. I would like to request that during the Harbor Fest, July 26 through 29, 2018, permission to have outdoor performances until 2 a.m. I've made this request for the past several years and never had a complaint. Thank you for your time and consideration. Is there anybody here to speak on this?
Good evening. Yeah, this is like the 6th or 7th year I've had it. To my knowledge, I've never had a complaint. No police officers have ever come down or haven't had any calls that I'm aware of. And usually, I don't think I've ever had it on Thursday since I've had it. But just in case once somebody wants to play, but I've never had it on a Thursday. Just been Friday, Saturday, mainly.
And I have verified Mr. Thompson with the local police agency, and there hasn't not been one complaint. So, is there any questions on this? Verdi, it's in your ward, I know. Maybe any concerns? Can I get a motion? Councilor McVerdi, Councilor Cordino.
Councilor Tesorero?
Yes.
Councilor Corradino?
Yes.
Councilor McGuire?
Thank you.
Item number 2, the City Clerk's Office has received a request from Kristen DeSantis of the Sting of Oswego, located at 49 West Bridge Street, for a waiver of the noise ordinance in order to host live acoustic music 2-piece sets on the patio of their establishment during the summer months. Is there anybody here to speak on behalf of that? I don't have a whole lot of information based on that, but let's see what I can find. Pretty much what I have.
There's a letter.
Well, there is a letter. Yeah, I can. Let me read this letter. It's a little lengthy, but to whom it may concern, I'm writing this request, the Sting of Oswego, to receive a variance from the city for the noise ordinance. I feel that allowing my business a variance from the noise ordinance will benefit both my business as well as the downtown community of Oswego, New York. Allowing the Sting a noise variance, or allowing the Sting a noise variance, will prevent the business from suffering the financial hardship during the summer months. It will also benefit the city of Oswego by bringing business to the downtown area. The city would reap various economic benefits such as increased sales tax. It goes on to say, I won't read the whole thing, but in order to provide my customers and residents the city of Oswego with an enjoyable atmosphere, I'm requesting a music decibel of 85. I purchased a decibel reader and will have the meter located on the premises. If needed, I will be available to have an employee available on site to meet an officer at the location of a complaint to determine whether or not we're in compliance with the said agreement. I hope that you consider this request, and I can feel it will greatly benefit the economy of the city of Oswego during the summer months. Any questions?
Have they gotten it every year? Or is this a new request? And the decibels, that's right, the 85, right?
This is new to me, but I think Councilor Cordino will speak on this. Maybe Councilor Gozick.
Well, I know that it has been 3 years that they've come with pretty much the same request. I've been here 2 years as a counselor and 1 year as a person in the audience, and they've received it. And as far as I know, there has been no issues.
Okay.
Perfect. I did follow up on that again with the police, and there was no issues in the past 2 years that they could speak of. Yeah. I think they're going to try to keep under the... Any other questions? Can I get a motion? Councilor Cordino? McCurdy.
Counselor Testerero.
Yes.
Counselor Corradino.
Yes.
Counselor McBrady.
Also, there seemed to be an add-on. I don't know if this is familiar to anybody. I don't know if Mary came. Yeah, I've got this. R&R Malone, the Office Tavern located 11 West Seneca Street, is requesting permission from the city of Oswego to host live music on the outdoor patio May through September, Wednesday through Sunday, 6 p.m. to 2 p.m. Or a.m. Yeah, a.m. And that's all I really have on this. And I would, without having the public knowledge of this and the late nature of it, I think we should probably table this to our next meeting just so we can get some feedback from the community. Is there somebody to speak on this behalf?
Yes.
Yes.
I'd like to apologize for the confusion on this. We didn't know until we were planning that I had to come before and apply for this. Basically, we just want to have acoustic music during dinner and stuff, and we applied Wednesday through Sunday for 6 to 2 just to kind of cover our basis on everything. We're new, we're learning. I talk to Jimmy Bell all the time on things, and it was brought to my attention the other day that, hey, you can't have anybody Memorial Day weekend till you come here. So I apologize for the delay. We just,
And I'm speaking as chairman of this committee. It's just nice to give, so it's on the agenda. So if there is any concern, people, this was
okay.
Late today.
Yeah, well,
when we
I called and
received
they told me
this.
to show up tonight, and
so if it could, a couple of weeks going to make or break this thing, or
No, that's
so we
fine.
can. Okay. So can I get a motion to table?
yeah, I mean, I'll be honest with you, I'm never gonna. This was like he said, it was the last thing, so that hurry up and write a letter, and that's so we just proposed everything to. But yeah, I mean, I would be happy with midnight.
If you could maybe tweak the times that you think, like
Yep.
The previous
Yes.
Submissions we've had as far as being a little more specific, it might make it easier for us to look
Okay.
at that.
Yeah, that's perfectly fine. Like I said, the whole thing was a last minute.
Councilor Cordino.
Yeah, I mean, we just approved Gibby Thompson's till midnight, so I mean, yeah, 2 a.m. is a little long. I mean, you're on the edge of the
I agree
of
100%.
the residential section. If you were
Yep.
on the corner of First and Bridge, it may be different, but you're a little close to the residential section. I think 2 a.m. is a little. Yeah. So yeah, as the chairman said, if you come back and you need to revise.
No problem.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Oh, motion to table? Councilor McBrady?
Wait a minute.
Oh.
Before we do it,
Not on that. Before you close the business, I have an update.
Okay. Yeah. Councilor McBrady.
Second.
Councilor Cordino.
Counselor Testerero.
Yes.
Counselor Corradino. Counselor McBrady.
Is this under planning and development, Kevin?
Well, no, it's
Okay.
regarding the first meeting. I do have an update for you.
All right.
And I wanted to not leave without sharing this. And that is, I spoke to the landlord, and he's agreed to split the cost. So, if that...
well, we could reconvene
Let's
the...
reopen.
Yeah.
After we close this meeting, we could reconvene, and we could do it just tonight. And
I just didn't want... I know you're trying to wrap up, and everyone's trying to get home, but...
All right, thanks.
Procedurally, did you...
Yes. Yeah, we did. Any other business to come before the planning and development? Can I get a motion to adjourn? Councilor McBrady? Councilor Cordino?
Counselor Testerero.
Yes.
Counselor Corradino.
Yes.
Counselor McBrady.
Okay, one more time. At this time, I'd like to reopen the Administrative Services Committee meeting because we didn't get everything done in the first meeting. Please call the roll.
Counselor Corradino.
Here.
Counselor DeMassey.
Here.
Counselor Hill.
Here.
Counselor Testerero.
Here.
Counselor Wilmot.
I think just I mean, you had tabled, I believe it was item number 3?
So we need a motion to bring it back.
Please.
Can I have a motion to bring it back? Councilor Tesorio, Councilor Wilmot. Bring back the item concerning the door, this expensive door at our facility on Liberty Street. Please continue.
So I had placed a call into to the landlord. He did call me back. We spoke, and he's seen the wisdom of agreeing to split the cost of the door and installation, but does not want to be responsible for the work, the actual installation work. I thought that was a fair compromise. I believe the company that is being hired is going to do that work anyway. Not exactly sure, but I thought that was part of the proposal. I don't have the materials in front of me, but the only thing I would suggest, and he's also agreed, and this will make our Chamberlain happy, is that proposal be at the very least placed in both names of both the landlord and the city as tenant, and that way, from an accounting perspective, we're good, and that would be consistent with the resolution of this matter, where both parties are splitting the cost.
And a question for the city chamberlain, because it would be in both names, would this be a tax-exempt purchase, so we don't have to pay the $448 in tax?
I can't answer that. We don't know, because it is a private business. So I will defer to the city attorney.
We're going to talk to the company about that. Hopefully, at the very least, maybe there's a splitting of that as well. But you know, that's between all of us in the state of New York.
I understand. We certainly don't want to do the wrong thing when it comes to the taxes. So just to recap here, according to this proposal, it was supply and install, and that was a cost of $1,894.42, and then the actual cost of the opener, door/opener, was $3,696.63, for a total after taxes of $6,038.33. So what did he want? Where are we splitting? Are we splitting it down the middle?
Right down the middle. Thank you. Right down the middle. He just didn't want the responsibility of actually having to install it. But
right.
the proposal is for supplies and installation, okay, and that's consistent. He just didn't want to have to do the work.
Got it.
So.
Any comments on this, Councilor Wilmot?
Yeah. Does this, because it's going through the city, do they have to get more than one bid?
I don't believe so. I thought, yeah, I do believe it's under the threshold. Sorry?
Over 3,000
Well, then it shouldn't be a problem to contact several other ones and get a quote between now and next Monday.
Yeah, I'm just not certain, but I'll check with Mr. Emmons.
Yes, there's a handout.
Way around the tax exempt too, have the city buy it, so that would be tax exempt, and you just reimburse the tax.
No, we don't own the building. Sorry.
But if you bought it.
We bought it, we take it with us.
So did you want to?
Fundamentally, the landlords agreed to share the cost equally with the city.
That's all we were looking for.
That's what we want.
Yeah. So at this point, are we going to vote on an amended resolution here?
Yeah, I would recommend that we do just that, and and I'll obviously revise the resolution to reflect that the cost is to be shared equally between landlord and tenant.
And can I have a motion to share the cost of this super duper door? Councilor Massey and Tesorio.
Councilor Court.
And And to transfer funds, where was that listed here? From the general fund contingent to the CHEDA admin, not to exceed 6,100, which now it's going to be half of that.
Correct.
So can we still have a motion for that one? Massey and Tesorario.
Counselor Corradino.
Yes.
Counselor DeMassey.
Yes.
Counselor Hill.
Yes.
Counselor Tesorero.
Yes.
Counselor Wilmot.
Yes.
Well, thank you very much for that late-breaking news.
That was great
you.
expediting.
At this point, any old business? Seeing none, moving on. Motion to adjourn. Counselor Wilmot, Counselor Hill.
Counselor Corradino.
Yes.
Counselor DeMassey. Counselor Hill.
Yes.
Counselor Tesorero.
Yes.
Counselor Wilmot.
Yes.
Thank you.